Welcome everyone to our YouTube series, Test Prep Made Easy. So in this particular series, we are going to post regularly questions on our YouTube channel. The questions may pertain to CAT preparation, maybe pertaining to GMAT preparation, as well as of various topics which are tested in these particular exams. For example, quants, LRDI, English, and various areas which are tested. And each day we will handle certain number of questions and their video solutions. The best approach is to these questions in these videos. So have a happy preparation ahead and enjoy the video. Thank you.
All right, so these are the questions that we are going to try in today's video. If you have tried it already from the thumbnail, good enough. If you haven't, you can pause the video at this point and try it once before you look into the solutions. We recommend you doing that. But if you just want to enjoy the solution, that's also good enough. And go ahead and watch the solutions now. All right, so we have a question in which we're looking at the total surface area of a frustum of a square pyramid. So by the way, if you're not aware of what the figure is, I'll just explain this in brief. First of all, a pyramid will be having a base. I mean, that base could be anything. So in this case, square being the base. And everything, I mean, that is every vertex of the base will be connected to one point up top. So that is a pyramid. Now, from here, how do you get a frustum? It's very simple. So what you do is just make a cut, which is sort of parallel to the base. I mean, not sort of, it has to be parallel to the base. And then whatever is remaining on the bottom part, so that will form a frustum. So the frustum in this case would look something like this. So you'll have a square on the top. You'll have a square on the base because it's a frustum from a square pyramid. And then every vertex will be connected in this manner, sort of this manner. So this will be the frustum. So this is the frustum, and some dimensions are given. The side of the top is given 4 centimeters. So this thing is 4 centimeter. The side of the base is 8 centimeters. So this is 8 centimeter, this entire thing. The slant height as 6 centimeters. So by the way, many people make a mistake on the slant height. Slant height is not this. This is the slant edges. Slant height is when you connect the center of the top surface to the center of the, I mean, center of the edge of the top surface to the center of the edge of the bottom surface. So something like this. You can also connect here. That might be a little easy to view. So this will be the slant height because it is slanted. So that is why it's called slant height. That slant height. So I'm just denoting this here, sort of this figure. So this is 6 centimeter, right? And we are looking for the total surface area. So just remember this. I mean, whenever you're looking for total surface area, you're looking for the sum of the areas of the all the exposed surfaces. So in this case, what are the exposed surfaces? I'm just taking this off. You obviously have this top surface and the bottom surface, which are squares. So these two will have areas of 4 square and 8 square. And if you just try to visualize the the slant surface that you have, so these surfaces that are there, they will be sort of a trapezium, right? You will have you can look at the front one. That might be a little easy for you to understand. So you'll have 4 centimeter here, 8 centimeter here, and this slant height is nothing but the distance between the parallel sides, right? So you have 4 of these trapeziums. So there are 4 of these trapeziums, and each of this will have an area of half into sum of parallel sides into the distance between the parallel side, right? So just use this and you'll get the answer. 4 square is 16, 8 square is 64. So this adds up to 80, this part. And this thing is half into 6 is 3. Then you have 12. So 3 into 12 is 36, into 4 is 144. So you have this as 144. Simply add these two and you'll get the answer. That will be 224 in this case. So pretty standard question. Whenever you have questions on 3D shapes and figures in these exams, you will never have too complicated ones. You'll never have parallelepiped or something like that. But it will be more of the terminologies that will matter. So if you don't know what a frustum is, you'll never be able to solve this question. So just go through those kind of basics and have an idea about it, and that will be sufficient to solve this question. So that's all of my inputs for this particular question. Hopefully everything was understood. Thank you for joining in. Well, we have a very straightforward question in terms of geometrical counting. So there are 9 points which are marked on a straight line and 10 points are marked on another line which is parallel to the first line. So there are two parallel lines, first of all, and there are a total of 9 points on one of these lines. So I'm just denoting this in this way. So there are 9 points in total, and the other line has 10 points, right? So these two are parallel lines, and you have these many points on these lines. We are looking for how many triangles can be formed with these points as the vertices. So it's a pretty straightforward question. I mean, even if the lines were not parallel, it really doesn't matter as long as there is no overlap in the points. So all you have to do is just select. So basically, what you have to understand is when you have to form a triangle, you have to select 3 points, right? Now, those 3 points cannot come from the same line. So suppose you select all of these 3 points, so that will never form a triangle. Similarly, if you pick these 3 points, so that is not going to form a triangle. So how can you pick the vertices? So you can pick 2 from any one of the lines and 1 from the other line. So effectively, there are 2 cases, broadly speaking. So one is you pick 2 from the first line. You can do it in 9C2 ways. And correspondingly, I mean, when you have picked 2, you have to pick 1 from the other one. So you pick 1 point from the other line. Or you add, you pick 1 point from the first line out of the 9 points, and correspondingly you pick 2 points from the second line. So just calculate this and you'll get the answer. So let me just take this visual thing out now. So you have 9C2 into 10C1. 9C2 is, by the way, 9 into 8 by 2. So this is the easiest way to remember this. And into 10. And this is 9. 9C1 is 9. And 10C2 is similarly 10 into 9 by 2. So just calculate this and you'll get the answer. There's no calculation shortcut that I'm looking at. But yeah, actually I am. Okay, interestingly, so if you look at this particular thing, so this will definitely end with a 0. And if you look at this thing, it will end with a 5, right? So if you add these to the last digit, it has to be 5. So there is only one such option and you'll get the answer without calculating this. So that's it for this problem. I hope everything was understood. There's nothing too much to add to this. You have different variations on this type appearing in a lot of different exams in a lot of different years. So I hope the basic ideas are cleared with you for these type of questions. We have a dedicated part of our course, which, in permutation combination, which deals with geometrical counting and all. So that's it for this particular question. I hope everything was understood. Thank you for joining in. All right, so we have a right angle triangle. The sides of the right angle triangle are lying on these 3 lines. So there are 3 equations of lines given, and the sides of the triangle are lying on these lines. Now it's a right angle triangle, so a couple of these lines have to be perpendicular to each other, because you'll have a 90 degree somewhere on the right angle triangle. So the first thing I'm noticing is the slope of these lines. I do identify that this one and this one are perpendicular. I'll come to the explanation a bit more if that is required. The question is looking for the vertex opposite to the hypotenuse. Okay, so the vertex opposite to the hypotenuse. So if you think about the right angle triangle, the vertex opposite to the hypotenuse is basically that vertex on which you have that 90 degree, right? So now this actually becomes relevant. What I was noticing is if you have this x plus y minus 8 equal to 0, so this has a slope of -1, right? I hope you know how to calculate slopes and all. And for x minus y equal to 0, the slope is 1. As long as the product of slope is -1, so that will give you a perpendicular lines. In this case, the slope will be 3 by 2. So 3x minus 2y. So 2y is 3x. So y is 3 by 2x. So the slope will be 3 by 2. That is not working out, but these two lines have to be perpendicular to each other, right? So once you identify that these two lines are perpendicular to each other, this point on which you have that 90-degree or the vertex that we are looking for will basically be the solution of these two equations, right? That is the meeting point of these two lines. So here you know that x is equal to y. So just substitute that either way. So if you put x instead of y, so you'll have 2x is equal to 8 or x equal to 4. And once you use it here, so you get y is equal to 4, right? Or you can use it there as well. So the point is 4,4. Oh, by the way, as soon as you notice that this is x equal to y, you don't have to solve it as well, because in no other option x is equal to y. Only one option you have x and y equal. So that's it for this question. Hopefully everything was understood. Nothing too much to add anything more to this question. Thank you for joining in. Right, so the figure for this question has been presented to us, and both of these information has already been displayed in the figure itself. So a couple of these angles have been given 110 degrees, and we are concerned with this angle, right? So the COD angle is what we are looking for. Now, I'll be frank with you. Whenever I have these type of questions, there's a circle, and so that sort of thing. So whenever this angle on the center is asked for, it is mentioned that O is the center of the circle. Whenever that is asked for, my immediate thinking is what will be the angle CAD. So if I can figure out CAD, then twice of that will be the angle COD, right? So that will be my immediate thought anytime when I look at these kind of questions. So I am concerned with CAD. Now the question comes that how do I figure it out, right? So let me first reconnect this. And now I'm trying to simplify this or utilize this 110 degrees somehow. So if I can manage this 110 degrees somehow, then my job is done, right? So yeah, now I do notice something. So let me explain this in this manner. Let me first take this line off. It will be easy for you guys to visualize with me as well. Notice this quadrilateral. So this CAED quadrilateral. So if you notice this quadrilateral, that is a cyclic one, right? It is, I mean, this circle is a circumcircle of this quadrilateral as well. So this angle being 110 degree, this opposite angle should be 70 degrees, right? They are supplementary. Using the same idea, what you can do is you can also prove that this entire angle should be 70 degrees. Just consider this quadrilateral. I hope now you will be able to visualize. So this ABCD quadrilateral. So these two would also be adding up to 180 degrees. So that makes another 70 degree here. And now job is done, because now if you look at this ACD triangle, this is 70 and 70. So that adds up to 140, leaving 40 degree here. And as I mentioned earlier, whatever is the angle here, COD will be double of that. So that will be 80 degrees out here. Option C as the answer. So pretty straightforward one. A little bit of construction is required. I do find that students, find those kind of geometry equations challenging whenever a small construction, a line has to be constructed or something like that has to happen. I hope that you listened to what was my reasoning behind it, how I reasoned out what I require to do to get my objective. So that is what I was looking at. If you always objectify what is required and backtrack, that is the best way to identify what to construct for. Otherwise, you will never understand what to construct to get the answer. So hopefully this is helpful. In our courses, a lot of different questions I've done this. I've mentioned this same thing as well. Always to notice what I'm thinking. I always tend to do that. I always tend to explain what I'm thinking rather than just giving the solution. So I hope you can take something meaningful out of this video. I hope this solution was understood by everyone. Thank you for joining in.
Hopefully you liked the solutions we provided for these questions. And if you did like it, do not forget to like the video and share, subscribe, and comment. Do subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon. In that case, you'll get notification as soon as we upload a new video. And if you want to check a bouquet of courses that we provide, so we have a huge variant of courses from customizability to full preparation. You can check our website, www.mathoratory.com. I'll leave the link in the description below. And have an enjoyable preparation ahead. Welcome to the Math Oratory family and have a good exam ahead.